Greetings, Guardians, my name is Byfear. Salvation's Edge has been completed, and it unlocked the finale for the entirety of Destiny's first 10-year saga of Light and Dark. In the process of making this video, I will inevitably talk about spoilers, so this is your final warning to turn off now if you haven't played the final mission and seen the cutscenes at the end of it. If you do intend to play it, a word to the wise: for the moment, if you're doing this in the opening moments of the video here, and if things are still looking a bit unstable with servers, please do it solo. There is a chance you'll miss a crucial cutscene if you don't. Bungie is still trying to fix things and error codes are slowing down, but to guarantee your experience, hit this one alone. You'll be match-made into a group of 12, you will not be facing the Horde alone. So with those warnings out of the way, let's talk about the ending of Destiny's Light and Dark saga. The finale to that Light and Dark saga takes place after Salvation's Edge has been completed, and when the Witness has been severed from the Traveler's Light. The Witness still needs to be defeated in a final battle, and alongside our allies, we assembled with the Vanguard to make the final assault against the Witness's forces together. In this titanic battle, we're joined by so many friendly and, well, unfriendly faces, familiar voices from the past. Keitel, Mithrax, Mara Sov, the Guardians, the Elixni, the Cabal, even Savathun and some of her Lucent Hive like Luzaku. A massive united force has assembled alongside us to fight through the horde of the Witness's army. As this massive force, we pushed back those loyal to the Witness, including enemies of every single stripe: House Salvation, the Loyal Hive of Zivua Wrath, the Dread, the Taken, the Vex of the Soul Divisive, the Scorn. Every single enemy we've ever faced was there to fight against us, but all our allies stood at our side. And eventually we pushed through to the Witness in its titanic form, with Saint 14 providing us an area of safety at all times at our back. The damage that had been done to the Witness in the raid on its monolith, its separation from the Traveler's Light, had bought us a crucial opening. Now the Traveler's Light was flowing freely once again, and we could exploit the same strategy that we'd used in our first battle against the Witness to soundly defeat it for good. We would gather the light of the Traveler, carve a path into the darkness, and use the light of the Traveler as a weapon. Just as we had in our first confrontation with the Witness. We shattered the assembled minds of the Witness's chorus, carving it away until at last there would be next to nothing left. With each moment carving away the Witness's inner minds, we were given a chance to strike back at the titanic monster before us, until eventually a final moment was reached, a cataclysm. In a moment of heroic sacrifice, our own ghost asked us to channel the light of the Traveler through it so that it might become the weapon of our deliverance. And with that purest of light, we unmade the Witness at last. In its final moments, we saw that the last of its minds had been split apart as its unity shattered. Instead of referring to itself as we, in the last moments, it stated, "I don't understand." Our ghost, thanks to this sacrifice, had brought us victory. But it gave its life in the process. And as we cradled its shell, we found ourselves transported to a place of luminance, a bright light without explanation. Perhaps this was the true nexus of the Traveler's pale heart. Perhaps it was a moment within our own minds. Perhaps it was a vision. Regardless, we begged the Traveler to bring back our ghost. And as we have come to know, the Traveler was silent. But in this moment of silence, someone near and dear was still watching, and made the choice to intervene. Cayde. He returned and told us that the light is connected in all things: ghosts, guardians, the Traveler. In death, our ghost had returned to the light of the Traveler, just like Cayde had. And so Cayde made a choice. He used his own light to return light to our ghost and bring it back, so that he might take its place instead, returning to the Traveler to be at peace once again. And so the light of the Traveler flowed through him and into our ghost. And as he faded away, our ghost was returned. There were many things that occurred in the time that followed. A lot of them are demonstrated in the cutscenes that followed, but for just a moment we got to see what we had finally worked for so long. Peace. A city filled with people laughing, celebrating, children playing. A place for all the people that we had come to call friends and family. For humanity, the Awoken, the Eliksni, the Cabal. Together, we had overcome. Together, we had triumphed. And at last, there was a modicum of peace. But for us personally, the reflection on the end of our first long saga came to a close in this moment where we were sat atop the exterior of what I presume is the helm with our ghost, looking over the pale heart of the traveler. We heard a few words from Crow, words indicative of what the future held for us. According to Crow, there was a shockwave sent through the universe by the Witness's death, with many of its troops being scattered unless they were particularly zealous. Some would still hold on, but most of them would be divided from here on out. Threats still exist out there in the universe though. A mortal Xivu Arath, a disunited House of Salvation, they would struggle on. The Scorn and Taken would still be wild and dangerous, but were momentarily left leaderless. In the wake of this moment, a power vacuum has been created. Who rises to fill it is still not clear, but in time there may be a new menace on the horizon we need to deal with. But there were other troubling things that occurred. Savathun and her Lucent brood had taken root within the pale heart of the Traveler itself and were contesting the Guardians for control of it. Even with individuals such as Luzaku showing us that her brood could be somewhat disunited, there is still the possibility that we will need to fight Savathun for this ground, especially considering the power contained within the Traveler. As if this wasn't bad enough, the Traveler has been fundamentally changed by the darkness introduced into it. It has begun to bleed energy from the portal, a combination of light and dark spilling forth in a beautiful aurora. It's spilling over Earth and venting into space. The Coalition, which now appears to be an alliance, has placed cruisers at its border in order to contain the area with a no-fly zone. Thus far it has not been tested, but the effects of this effluvial field of light and dark that are spilling forth from the Traveler are yet to be seen. Stranger still, a chunk of anomalous matter has been ejected from the Traveler and was seen moving at relativistic speeds until it stopped in the orbital path of Nessus, an echo of sorts that Crow had tasked some of his hunters with investigating, an echo that we might soon come to see for ourselves. There is still a ton for me to break down, but for now I just wanted to give a few little observations on the broad brush scheme of things, and to talk at the very end a little bit less about what I think on things and a little more about how I feel. First of all though, the momentary observation I want to make about the very last cutscene is this. Before we hear Crow's dialogue, we see 3 stars of a sort leaving the Traveler. It almost looks like they are wisps that you can see from the moment where we finally destroy the Witness in Excision. Whether that's the case or not isn't clear, but if these represent stray minds that were once part of the Witness's chorus, it could mean that there is at least a part of it that remains. Maybe saying a part of the Witness that remains isn't accurate, because after all the Witness is a compound being. It does not truly exist anymore now that its chorus has been scattered. But if this is something that was previously a part of the Witness, that's worth tracking down. At best, it's a confused mind of a dissenter in need of rehabilitation and a moment where it can be finally laid to rest, as would be its desires. But at worst, this is a mind that has been cast out of the chorus that truly supported the creation of the Witness. A vengeful spirit, dangerous and somewhat damaged in this moment, liable to lash out. That's all highly speculative, but it's worth remembering just in case. We don't know what those are, but they are worth chasing and figuring out more about. It is also worth pointing out again that this is speculative purely based on the fact that, well, the raw power of the Traveler was used to destroy the Witness. Furthermore, I think I have an answer at last as to the reason why the Traveler is so constantly silent, even in this moment where we achieved our final victory. It's something that I think is made all the more clear by Cade's choice and our final monologue in the Pale Heart from our ghost at the conclusion of the Final Shape quest. In short, the Traveler is trying to, in the most clear possible way, give us a choice. Back in the Precursor civilization, it was doing this as well. It gave them gifts and plenty, but not guidance. In this moment where Cade chooses to reunite with Sundance and sacrifice himself for us, he states, "Nobody gets to make my fate but me," before choosing to transfer his light to our ghost. When we reunite with our ghost after the finale, our ghost says, "The witness wanted to provide a purpose to the universe, but our purpose is ours to choose. Our fates are ours to make." He also says, "Now we get to ask the question the witness wouldn't allow anyone to. What do you want our future to be?" The aspect of choice and freedom is the key here. The witness reaches out to us and offers to make us a part of its final shape. Many a time, it actively tries to shape the destiny of others towards its own means, and the Traveler is in its own way the total opposite of this. It wants us to choose our own fate, and it gives us our powers, the light, and its blessings in order to enable those choices. But it won't ever speak, not completely and truly, because then it does as the witness does. This isn't to say the Traveler doesn't reach out from time to time. We've seen it over and over again in this saga. Back in Forsaken, back in Destiny 2 Vanilla, back in the times of Destiny 1, even with the release of the ghosts themselves in the moment of the final battle in the Collapse. It occasionally offers us guidance and gives us visions, but they are always vague and subject to our own interpretations. Even when the speakers heard the voice of the Traveler, it overtook them with rapturous visions and didn't give them clear, definitive answers. It wasn't even clear that they were being spoken to directly. It deliberately gives us the chance to make our own interpretations, because a direct voice is too direct. To speak would be to make a commandment. To demand that others heed your own divine words would be to rob them of a choice to make their own interpretation, would be to rob them of a choice to choose their own destiny. The most intervention that we've ever seen from the Traveler is when we reach out to use its light directly, and when it manifests things from our past for us to achieve the purpose that we have chosen for ourselves. Occasionally, it has lavished us with gifts, most notably in the moment where it gives us its own blade as a source of power and light. But it is worth remembering, it only does this because we made the choice to fight for it. We are its chosen not because we carry out its will, but because it wishes to see our will carried out. I am convinced through the words of Cade and our ghost that that is fundamentally and thoroughly the point of the Traveler's light and the Traveler's gifts. The point of the light is freedom to make our own choices. For the longest time, I think we've all been seeking to know what the will of the Traveler really is, but in a certain sense, that idea is a bit foolish. We've been seeking purpose from it when all along we should have been seeking purpose for ourselves. It has provided us with all the bounty of the universe and all the tools to do that. It has provided us with the power of a god, but it has chosen to allow us to make what we will of that power. It has chosen to let us be free. I know that interpretation isn't going to satisfy some of you, but after seeing everything that I have over the last 10 years, after personally hoping for a moment where we would stand before the Gardener herself and stare upon her face to know her truth, after personally believing that we were meant to hear its explicit instructions, to be the blade of its will, I think now, this is the only way things could have made sense. The silence from the Traveler in this last moment, if you understand and believe that interpretation, is perfect, because it deliberately chooses never to act according to its own will. It allows Cade to make a choice instead. And this isn't something where it's the only option that's left to Cade. Cade chooses this. He makes his own fate. And if we really did want to get a more direct manifestation of the Traveler, well, in the cutscene it was there. In the cutscene you see Cayde and you see Sundance, brimming with light, patiently awaiting Cayde's return. And in the one vision shown to Cayde in the campaign, when Luzaku helps us to raid the one lost sector where there is a bloom of light, what exactly is it that Sundance says again?
Well, what if what I want is to stay here? With you?
If that's the fate you make.
What if I want to stay here with you, if that's the fate you make? The fate you make. This is the only way the Traveler can reach out to us and guide us, and even in this moment, where it's trying to give Cayde some very important information, his perception affects how it appears. If it wasn't Cayde, it wouldn't have been Sundance speaking. And it still says that he is able to make his own fate. If that's the fate you make, are the words that it chooses to speak. If we want to hear anything close to the voice of the Traveler, we need to experience its dreams and visions just like the old speakers or dreamers did. But if we want to know the Traveler's will, our quest is over. Its will is for us to do as we will, and it makes that choice, giving us this power, accepting all the pain, all the suffering, all the joy and all the happiness that those choices might bring. Because the Traveler wants us to make our own path, even if we fall and stumble, even if we make terrible mistakes. And if it is still playing some cosmic flower game with the Winnower to this day, then we are still its most convincing argument. We are still its final shape, because we define our own final shape for ourselves. Lastly, I want to couch the examination and analysis for a moment and just say, I really didn't think things were going to end like this. Near universally, with some legitimate lore tidbits here and there being discussed back and forth, I think the final shape has been received remarkably well. It has universally been shot to the top of everyone's list of favorite expansions, and I personally did not believe the final shape could deliver anything close to that. I'm so glad I was wrong. I was very much lost after Lightfall with regards to my beliefs of whether Destiny as a franchise was going to be able to recover and survive. It was one of those moments where I think I was left a little bit listless and hopeless for 18 months, and whilst things did recover in Into the Light, I was still unsure. I won't lie, I was more nervous on day one of the final shape than I have been in a long, long time. But here we are. It turns out, it was a pretty good ending to this story. There are still huge lore mysteries that need to be unraveled with the raid and lore that hasn't been uncovered yet there. There are still mysteries about the Traveler that will be revealed in the Kvoshtov quest when I cover that. There are still things we need to talk about and explore with regards to the upcoming episodes of Echoes, Revenant, and Heretic. And I'm happy to get to all of those in time and to help show all of you the mysteries held within. But for just a moment, I want to stop and say this. The final shape as a whole is a meditation on the idea of purpose. The entire philosophy of the Witness is all about making purpose for others, and the entire philosophy of the Traveler is about allowing others to choose purpose for themselves. To speak without analysis, for just a second, I think this reaffirms what my purpose here is with all of you. It's to tell stories. It might not always be a story you're interested in. It might not even be Destiny every time. I don't know what the future holds. But I think if this last 10 years has given me something, it is a purpose. Some time ago, back in Witch Queen, I wrote a note on my office whiteboard, and it's still there to this day through a couple of moves and through a lot of tumultuous time. It was something I wrote when I was asking myself what I wanted out of my YouTube channel and my career going forward generally, and it was a weird moment of soul-searching that led me to a single, inescapable praxis. It reads, to pass on the brighter torch of knowledge, to teach and inspire. I think that if I'm learning anything out of the last 10 years, it is simply that this is what I am meant to be doing. So for as long as you'll entertain my esoteric campfire stories and my mad wittering about whimsical tales of far-off gods and heroes, for as long as you're still here to listen, I'll keep telling stories. You have all done me the honor, almost universally, of calling me a lawmaster. I aim to try and live up to that title, with all the responsibility that comes with it. I will most certainly make mistakes, and I will miss things. That's the nature of being human, and after all, knowledge isn't a binary thing of having it or not having it. Knowledge is a journey, and you're going to be ignorant of something along the way to understanding it properly. But where I can, I'll correct the record. Where I need to, I'll reach out and ask for clarification, and where I can, I'll lift up the voices that are more important than mine where certain topics are concerned. But I think my purpose is right here, sitting by a fire, telling all of you about a story that I love. I wouldn't be here in this place without Destiny. I wouldn't be here without those narrative designers at Bungie who brought us all to this point, and I wouldn't be here without you listening to the stories I tell. Thank you. I am eternally glad to have a purpose, even more glad that it's this one. So with that said, more content will be on the way. We'll be talking about my first impressions of Salvation's Edge when I've gotten my full clear-in. We'll be talking more about Echoes when it releases, and about the massive reveal stream that goes live on the 10th for whatever happens in the future of Destiny. I can't wait to discuss it all with you. But in the meantime, as per usual, know that just by being here, just by being around this campfire with me, that has been quite enough for me. Rhodacia ad Astra. Wherever it takes us, wherever we go, I'll see you Starside.